You're live. Yay. Okay. It's a little messier in here than I would prefer. But I don't know. I wish I could make the box smaller, but it is what it is. Well, hello. I don't see anybody live on the live stream, but that is okay. For those of you who are watching on the replay, today I thought it would be fun. If people show up, we'll chat about some things in the chat box, but somebody is here. Hello. Hello, welcome. So today I thought it would be fun to chat about sort of the notion of what I would do if I wanted to start over and I was trying to lose 20 pounds. I just picked 20 pounds as sort of an arbitrary number, really. But, from Australia. Well, welcome from Australia. I would love to visit Australia. My son is a big Wiggles fan, so I would love nothing more than to visit Australia. Although I'm really sad that Emma is gone. So I took some notes. But the first thing is I want to say, when you think about weight loss and losing weight, you want to make sure that you are setting a reasonable goal for the amount of weight that you want to lose. So I say 20 pounds for me, but 20 pounds for me would not be appropriate in the current size that I'm in. But if I were starting over, that's sort of like the premise that I'm working off of. So if we're starting over and I was losing 20 pounds, raised in New Zealand. So cool. Sorry. But the idea here is that, you want to make sure before you choose this amount of weight that you want to lose, you want to make sure that it's a reasonable amount for your body. Like right now, if I were trying to lose 20 pounds in my current frame, that wouldn't be a reasonable goal, and I would probably end up being underweight. And the goal here is health, right? The goal here is to be healthy. So we want to keep that in mind when we're thinking about it. So the first thing, let me pull up my notes here. My phone keeps going to sleep, which I don't really appreciate. Hello. My husband is here. Hi, thanks for coming by, my love. So, the first thing that I would do differently if I were starting all over again is I would start by tracking first. Because when I jumped into my weight loss journey and working with Noom and stuff, because when I started, and I will put in the description bar after this video is over, my journey, my story, for those of you who haven't seen it and want to see it. But when I started with Noom, I kind of just went off of what their recommendation was. And to be honest with you, I think looking back on it, while I understand what they were trying to do and accomplish, I think that I started with a calorie budget that was too low. And sure, it helped me to reach my goals, but I think that's what made it so hard for me on the front end, is because I was trying to achieve this small number that was just so much less than what I was accustomed to eating. So I think what I would do now, if I had it to do all over again, is I would track first and see what I was actually eating, and then cut it back into 10 to 20%. I was about to say minute. That doesn't make sense. 10 to 20 minute increments. Exactly. Yes. Track first so you have a sense of your baseline. Exactly. Track first so you have a sense of what you already are eating, so you don't put your body into what are we doing here? Feed me. Why aren't you feeding me? Yeah, absolutely. Track first, so that you can know where you're starting from, and then cut that 10 to 20%. Yep. Reduced by 10% to 20% increments. Absolutely. Hey, you is your name. Okay. I don't know what your actual name is, but yes, exactly. Hey, you. And I didn't do that before. So I think that would have been a really helpful tool for me to use. And I think that's what a lot of people sort of go in, is they go into one of these calorie trackers, or, they go into one of these calculators, and the calculator says 1,500. So I got to start at 1,500. And no, you realistically don't. And, when you, especially if you go from sedentary to, exercise and all that sort of stuff, you're going to really see a lot more benefits on that first like little bit just by making smaller changes because you're just shaking up your system so much. So that's one of the first things that I would do if I had it to do all over again. Let's see, what else did I put here on my notes? So the other thing that I thought about, when I started before the first time around, I opted for an exercise first and then diet, or um you know a nutrition component. And at the time, based on the season of life that I was in, with a 1 year old, it didn't feel feasible or reasonable for me to do both at the same time. But I think with the knowledge that I have now, I think it would be a much more reasonable expectation for me to do both at the same time so that you could actually see your gains as you're making them, as opposed to doing just the exercise component first and then adding in the nutrition, or vice versa. I've talked about in a recent video about basically like what happens if you just try to lose weight with nutrition only. You can do it, but the problem is when you're not increasing your basal metabolic rate, you're just sort of stuck at this low calorie budget. And that's not really very fun for anyone, right? So, I mean, I like food. Maybe that's just me. But maybe I like to eat too much. Yep. Yep. It's a combination of movement, exercise together with weight loss. Yep. And they say things like abs are made in the kitchen, and I think that's certainly true. You certainly have to get to this place of like, where am I from a body composition standpoint, so that you you can actually see the gains that you're working so hard for in whatever sort of exercise or movement that you've tried to incorporate. So let's see, what else did I want to talk about? Um, so, the other thing that I said that I really wish that I had given more focus to, and I talk about this entirely too much in other videos, probably for some people's liking, but I would have paid more attention to protein and protein goals and protein targets. Because while I do appreciate the Noom system, they sort of have well, it used to be green, yellow, red, but then I think as I was finishing up, they changed it to green, yellow, orange. I'm not sure anymore because it's been a minute, but they sort of had this system of like prioritize eating green foods. But for them, green foods are water-based foods, which are like vegetables and things like that, which is great and also important. But I don't think that the Noom program puts enough emphasis on properly getting the amount of protein that you need in your diet. And so that's one of the things that I wish, or if I had it to do all over again, that I would spend more time on, is making sure I was getting adequate amounts of protein so I wasn't losing my gains, because I probably, lost some of my gains that I had made as I was losing weight because I did, some of the gains first. I prioritized the workouts. And then, yeah, protein makes us feel fuller. Hey, you know what's going on, man. I love it. I feel weird calling you hey you, but that is your screen name. So, but yeah, protein definitely makes us feel fuller too. And, I think that's one of the other things that can be really hard when you like focus on these like water-based foods and stuff, is you just don't stay full as long. And so then you're always hungry, but you're like, but I'm living in this calorie budget. And that can just, it makes things less fun and less exciting. Right. And, there are some really, I think just in the last like probably, 5 or so years maybe, and I could be getting this wrong because I'm kind of like newer to the newer, there's a lot of cool protein sources. Now, you should certainly prioritize like real food. But like protein chips, like they have chips that are made from chicken called wild chips, and they're stupid good. Like they're like $7 a bag, which is ridiculous, but they're so good. So, I mean, there's lots of cool like protein sources that you can use to shake it up. And, it's hard because I think we underestimate how much protein we need. Protein signals fullness via triggering. Yep. Yes, All right. You're teaching me things. I love it. I love it. Um, Gastrointestinal and hypothalamic hormone signals. Got it. That sounds very fancy. I like to learn too. So I appreciate you sharing. That's cool. I didn't know all of that. So that's very cool. But, and we also know that protein is harder to digest, right, than some of the other like types of food that we're eating. So um, I lost my train of thought. Please forgive me. Um, where was I going with this? Please forgive me, friends. Let's see. We were talking about protein. Yes. There's some really cool sources, like some really awesome chips that I really like, and things like that. I don't love protein bars. Some protein bars are better than others. I will eat them out of convenience. And then there's also a lot of really cool like protein shake flavors now that I feel like didn't exist just even like 5 to 10 years ago. Um, Protein uses up calories to digest. Yeah. And Noom focuses on, green, watery foods. They focus on those like water dense foods. Yeah. And again, there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but I guess it really just depends upon your goals, right? If your goal is to try to build muscle, you're not really going to be able to do that with just those like vegetables and watery foods. So that makes it harder to get to. It makes it easier to stay in a calorie budget if you're just eating those green foods. Because I mean, like, if you think about like how many calories does like a handful of broccoli, right? You could eat like a ton of broccoli to fullness and um, still not be anywhere near your calorie budget. So again, I think it's based, and I think what's cool about Noom, and I do like Noom, and I think there's a lot of cool information on Noom. Um, but one of the things I do like about Noom is that like they help you when you get started, you set up your goals on the front end. And so I think that's pretty cool that you can tell them what you're trying to accomplish on the front end. So I think that will impact the way that they sort of taper their program to you. So, but like I said, I do think it's a good program. I think it's just a matter of what are your goals. And for me, anyway, now my goals certainly are more based around like building muscle and looking leaner as opposed to looking skinny. So, and that does have a lot to do, with that combination of food and exercise. What else? What else? But I did note here that one of the things that I would not change is I would not change working out with Caroline Gervan. I love her. I love her programs. I love her Facebook community. Like that has been such a cool, awesome like community. Like it's so great over there. And I really hope that I can sort of help build that community over here. Because I think that was really crucial to, staying focused and staying on track is like to meet other people who were enthusiastic about losing weight or who were, concerned about getting healthy and like challenging themselves and pushing themselves. So Caroline Gervan, she's here on YouTube. Well, she has an app now too, but I've primarily done her workouts from YouTube, which are free. So honestly, it's really too good to be free, which is probably why she made an app, because I can't say that I blame her. Like it's about the programs they're just too good. And so I'm actually planning here in the next couple of weeks, probably closer to the first of the year. Gervan, yeah, it's Girvan. Yep, Caroline Gervan. But I am planning to review like basically the entirety of her workouts from YouTube, the free ones, here in a couple of months, because I really think it could be helpful for folks to have an overview of like just what to expect from each of the different programs and sort of where to start and things like that. Because I just feel like her workouts to me are efficient and effective. And sometimes, and there's certainly more than one way to skin a cat, right? That's the turn of phrase. I don't love that phrase because I have cats, but there's more than one way, to lose weight, and there's more than one different kind of exercise. Some people love yoga and Pilates. Some people, prefer to run. Whatever your preference is. Yep, that's right. Um, whatever your personal preference is, uh, that that's just what I enjoy, and I'm learning about myself. And this maybe is just something that this is who I've become, not necessarily who I always was. But I'm learning to appreciate the challenge, and I feel like Caroline's workouts push me to my limits, and not in a bad way, but like push me to see like what can I do, what can I achieve. And so I think that's really cool. And so I definitely, if I had it to do all over again, I would certainly do some of her. I would certainly be incorporating her programs as well. I think that's really it, though. I mean, I've talked for like 16 minutes. So I've talked for not as many minutes as you would think. I can talk a lot longer. I'm good at it. But so I mean, but that was really like all that I had in my notes. So if you have questions, since you're here, I'm happy to answer those for you. Or if there's anything that you want to share, I'm happy to hear it. And then I guess we'll call it for today. But this was fun. Hopefully people enjoy live streams. I like to join live streams when I can, but sometimes, it's always hard depending on time of day and when people can make it work and all those sort of things. Question: how long did it take you to start losing weight? Oh, that's a good question. So I did let's see. So when I first started losing weight with just exercise, I lost probably 5 to 10 pounds over the course of a couple of months. And that was just with exercise alone. That was just with getting more movement. But within the 6-month time span of Noom, so I started Noom in January, and within 6 months of being with Noom, I had lost the other 20 pounds. So, they say that from a safety standpoint, you want to sort of think about 1 to 2 pounds a week maximum. But it really depends on how much weight you're carrying. Comment. Insulin resistance means that people need exercise movement so much more than those who are relatively insulin sensitive, and body composition changes are not evident on scales. Yes, that's true too. That's a good point. The scale is such a small piece of the puzzle, right? There are benefits to weighing in, and one of the things, kind of circling back to Noom, one of the things that they had us do is weigh in every single day. And the idea was not to put pressure on ourselves, but the idea was basically to desensitize ourselves from putting pressure on what the scale was saying, essentially, and to basically make it not a big deal to weigh in. Anymore, because I think a lot of times people only step on the scale when they're like, oh, well, did I lose this weight? Or how fast is this working, sort of thing. And so the idea was, we'll weigh every day, and then it's not such a big deal. It's just part of your routine. It's just part of what you do. You weigh, it's a number. But there's so much more than the scale. I mean, you might be, just because you're 130 pounds and the scale still says 130 pounds, but you've been changing your exercise. Yes, exactly. So I lost about 5 to 10 pounds by exercise alone. And then the rest of that, 20 pounds, was really when I focused on incorporating my diet. I was still exercising as well. It's when I started sort of using the combo platter approach. Let me see. I can actually pull up for you my scale here, and I can tell you exactly. Let's see here. I'll give you the exact numbers. Yes, I understand my scale is disconnected. All right, let's see here. I have to go in and select. All right, let's see. All right. Okay, it looks like the last I can go back to is 321. So that was basically So I started doing, it looks like on 321, I was at 151 pounds. I don't know if you can see that. I was at 151 pounds. And so things are sort of, the last weigh in that's on here is 522, and I'm down here. But sure, yes, absolutely. Um, sure, I would love your feedback. Yeah, absolutely. And you're right in that, I think sometimes the scale can feel triggering to a lot of people, because 151, right now I'm hanging out at around 113, 115. Um, but and that's, again, with body composition changes, and I've been living in maintenance for a little while. I stopped losing weight probably about 6 months ago or so, at least. But yeah, it's but yeah, I think you're right in that sometimes the scale can be triggering, and if it is a trigger, you know, yeah, the befores and afters of like fasting, yeah, fasting insulin, liver enzymes, blood lipids, yeah, absolutely. You're right. All of our sort of like body composition is impacted by what we're doing, right? It's not just like the physical component, right? There is a health and wellness perspective that's associated with all of it. Honestly, I'm not great about going to the doctor and doing blood work, as I should be, but you know um, DEXA scan to see muscle and lean muscle gains. Yeah. um, yeah, those are also ways to monitor. Yeah, that's awesome. When the I think the chat like will go away. So if you would, when we get off the chat and it like stays live, if you would go leave that as a comment in the regular video for people, that would be really helpful. That way they can see, those numbers as well. And honestly, I probably won't, but I probably should have some blood work done, and I'd be really interested to see where my numbers are from a health perspective, like how I'm doing from that perspective, because I would imagine, it's a lot better than it was. Because it's really about like what the amount of weight our body can handle us carrying, right? Based on our frame. I don't make 5 feet tall. And so, for me, losing 20 pounds is going to look a lot different than somebody who's like 5'10" and losing 20 pounds, because it's a different frame. Um, so I think that's an important point, though. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. But I have talked a lot, so I'm going to let you go. Thank you for those who have joined live. Sorry, I'm a doctor with an interest in metabolic medicine. Oh, that's so awesome. I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming. You did not crash the live. I loved that you were here. You added some very valuable information to the conversation. So I appreciate that you were here. Thank you for joining me and chatting with me today. And like I said, I would love if you would leave that information down in a comment when we're done with the live, for the folks that are watching it on the replay, because I'm not sure if you can see the chat, when the replay is over. So, but thank you so much for being here and for all that you do. And I will catch you guys in another one very, very soon. Bye.